Hello, everyone, and welcome to another session of our Ed Talks series. Today, we are really happy and very honored to give a warm welcome to Knotion and all the Knotion schools that are with us today. We welcome the proud parents of Knotion schools, as well as teachers, pedagogical leaders, and of course, our dear students that are with us. And we welcome you to connect throughout our program today, to comment and send us your thoughts and your questions. My name is Andrea Ferrari. I'm the founder and CEO at Wholeschools International, where we have created this innovative space to inspire conversations around education during these challenging and, of course, changing times. For Wholeschools, it is innovation, equity, well-being, and of course, happiness that are the pillars that will sustain a transformation or a change that is future-proof. And for that reason, we gather here in this space with our educational experts and leaders to guide our institutions in this transformation and inspire us, lead us with their international perspectives. Today, we are super, super proud, honored, and excited to have with us Miss Noemi Valencia Arredondo, who is here to talk to us all about knowledge and action, of course, learning for life. On behalf of Knotion, I want to give you a full introduction to Mimi, but first let me say hello and welcome you, Mimi.
Thank you, Andrea. It's an honor to be here with you to share this space, and I'm looking forward to an amazing conversation.
Of course, Mimi, thank you so much for joining us all the way from Morelia. We're super proud to have you here in the Republic of Mexico. Mimi is the co-founder and chief learning inspiration officer at Knotion and Tread Global. Mimi is also co-founder and chief learning officer at the Varmint School. It's a distinguished Apple school. She's also an advisor for the OECD, advisor for the 2030 Education Framework and representative of PISA for schools in Mexico. Of course, all this is very relevant as we delve into our conversation today, because for the past 27 years, Noemi has devoted her life to creating innovative and efficient learning environments for K through 9 students. So we're in for a treat this afternoon. And with that, I'd like to introduce our topic, of this idea that knowledge can certainly be an action, and that learning is for life, Noemi. And I'd like to begin with our first conversation point here. Tell us a little bit about Knotion for those of us who've not heard and not know where it's come from, and how is it connected to your dear school, the Varmint School?
Well, as you know, the story of the two companies is very intertwined. 27 years ago, just as you mentioned, we wanted to move away from Mexico City. We wanted to start a new life with our first daughter. She was just being born back then. And we wanted to move into the country. And Morelia was a beautiful city. We really loved it. But unfortunately, we couldn't find the kind of school that we were looking for. So that's when both my husband, Noel, and I decided to open a kindergarten, open a school, and create it just for her. And of course, to all the other children that would join and families that would join in the idea of creating something different. And the main difference, I would say, had to do with our essential question. Because back then, we were not so much worried of what we were going to teach those children. That was important, of course, but it was more, who were they? Who were those kids, and whom we wanted them to become? What kind of citizens we want to raise? What kind of humans? And we wanted to prepare them with all the competencies and the skills and the knowledge that they needed in order to make wise decisions and to really be able to face the future in front of them. So in doing so, because Varmint really became a research and development facility, it gave us the opportunity to understand all of the challenges that the industry was facing. And things that we found were that teachers were really overwhelmed. And I'm talking about many, many years ago. They were overwhelmed because they had demands from the parents, demands from the community, from the government, from policymakers. And there were very high expectations. But above all, they had the really, really important task of unlocking the full potential of their learners. So we learned a lot as learning guardians. We learned a lot of the pains that the schools had. So that's why we decided 7 years ago to create Knotion. And pretty much what we do is that we partner with the school and we walk step by step with them in this transformation that is taking place, and the being able of create learning ecosystems that really propel the students and dynamize what is happening within the classroom, within the schools, in order to really make sure that these kids are turning or being raised as these amazing human beings that we are all looking for.
Amazing. Thank you for that super introduction that puts everything into a very familiar and a very cozy, I would say, context for the families that are with us this evening, our dear students, and brings them to the center stage and at the heart of everything we do. Because if all the decisions we made as educators were centered around keeping that treasured idea that the students dictate and belong, are the protagonists of the learning experience, then we come up with this brilliant, again, notion, without a K this time, the brilliant notion that an ecosystem can be created to shift away from traditional learning to an engagement learning, right? And you keep referring to ecosystem, learning guardians, all these terms that are very much designed, created, and innovated by Knotion. Tell us a little bit about how the pandemic then played a role in actually impulsing this or impacting this and accelerating, if you will, the whole process of shifting in learning.
Well, as you know, prior to the pandemic, we already were a let's say a human tech design company. And a lot of people saw us as very visionary or even futuristic. And then the pandemic came and it kind of ratified that we were looking in the right direction. But also a lot of the things that the pandemic did is it created evidence and transparency of many of the flaws that were happening in the educational industry. And a huge need for connection and for meaning aroused, because all of a sudden both parents, students, and learners realized that it had not only to do with just connect to a Zoom video conference or just to be able to hustle the internet, but it really had to do with how do I create purpose and how do I engage my students and my learners, and how do I provide content that will really drive their purpose and the relevance in the learning. And I think that really supported the idea and the vision that we had at Knotion and everything that we were doing, because we kept saying this before COVID. We kept saying, it's not about the devices, it's not about the technology, it's about creating environments and fluencies where students can create and can collaborate and can communicate and can enhance the learning in the best way possible. And the technology plays an amazing part, but if you don't know how to use it, and that's what happened to, unfortunately, to a lot of schools and to a lot of teachers, then it can be extremely overwhelming and extremely hard.
Of course, Mimi, I'm sure that many of the people listening can empathize and can relate to exactly what you're saying, which brings me to another point. In having created this ecosystem and this shift, I understand, and I've met some Knotion students, and I've heard as well tales when they come to university. There are anecdotes and there are stories that tell us that Knotion students actually have a specific, I guess, a seal or a DNA that immediately they can tell when they've come out or are a product, let's say, of this shift in education. What would you say makes this? What is the secret sauce of Knotion? What are the hallmarks of Knotion education for life?
Well, one word comes to mind, and I believe it's consciousness. I would say that our pedagogical model, the impact learning model, which is very progressive and very innovative, really does that. And it's we always say it's a fusion of the knowledge and the science and the awareness or the consciousness. And because it's based on this human-centered design, it demands that the competencies, the life skill competencies of the students are developed. And that way it creates a new culture of living, a new culture of learning. We transform the patterns of thinking, of behaving, of acting of our students, because we want them to play an active role in society. And we want them to really be able to apply their knowledge, because everything that we're learning usually, and for centuries and centuries, everything that we learn, it stays in the classroom. And then when we walk out of the school, it's like we're a different person. And we wanted the opposite. We wanted to erase the classroom walls, and we wanted the kids to behave everywhere, use the world as their classroom and behave everywhere as this human being that is empathetic, that is creative, that is innovative, that is responsible, that is respectful, but above all, that is able to create solutions to problems at hand, that is able to impact in a positive way, and that is able to have a voice and to make the world a different place.
I love it. I love it, Mimi. I love it, Mimi, how you remind us over and over again that students' roles, that they're the protagonism is theirs. It belongs to them. Not only should they have an active role in learning, but their roles should be actively participating in society and knowing from very early on that they can certainly make a difference, that they can impact. And how so? By challenging them, as you said, with real life situations, with real life events, and those goals that are part of our humanity, of our shared humanity. You used a beautiful word, consciousness or awareness. If we start there, what a difference it makes, right? And you touched on something that transcends the classroom. You talked about erasing the walls of the classroom and how that the world can serve as the stage, correct? And that brings me to the idea of what transcends the classroom and what transcends us and our learning locally into what you have, the term you've used before, the glocal environment, right? Tell us a little bit more. What is the role that technology can play in immersing the students into this glocal, transcending or transdisciplinary environment where they can actually ground learning that is relevant? How do you do it?
Well, as you know, the impact learning model is based on challenges. So every unit that we provide the kids with is a real life challenge, and they need to act on it, and they need to find solutions, and they go through a whole process where they're thinking of the different prototypes and the solutions they can create from their local, just as you mentioned, from their local perspective, understanding and the needs of their locality, but also how these impacts globally and the consequences of our actions and the good that we can do with everything that we say, we think, we act, or we feel. So in order to be able to create a transdisciplinary curriculum, that's how we work, Everything needs to be intertwined. The subjects are not fragmented. They're all linked, because that's the way life works, and everything is related. And this makes a lot of significance and relevance to the students. Learning is very engaging, and they're very motivated because they're trying to solve this problem at hand. But of course, in the same fashion, the immersion into digital should flow in a very natural way, just the way we live at home or the way we do it everywhere else. So, because they were born with all of these devices. I always say that technology, we call technology everything that was created or emerged after we were born. But everything that was there before, we take it for granted and we don't think of it as technology, but the pen and paper are technology. And the only thing is, what we want to provide with the kids is with every single tool, and this includes the technological tools, in order to be competent. So in order to create, of course, digital citizenship. So in this case, technology has really helped us find a way in which our industry, and by the way, the education industry hasn't done it, a way in which we can enhance the learning process. Because technology provides a lot of amazing qualities. First of all, it gives the opportunity for the student and the learner to be a creator. It also provides transparency, because you can see your progress and monitor your progress and see exactly what you're doing. It creates connection and collaboration amongst peers, even if they're not in the same classroom, especially this past year, where a lot of some of our students stayed at home, some were in the classroom. When it's used correctly, it really helps democratize or provide access to all of the students, regardless of where they are. It allows for personalization. It allows for differentiation, and it really, really makes the learning process much better. Really, but when it's done right. And I can't stress this enough, because a lot of schools, a lot of teachers think that just because they're connecting to a video conference, that's enough, and then the kids are doing their work by themselves, or it's just, or technology is just a patch on top of the planning that they're doing based on paper. No. In order to do it right, the instructional design needs to be a blended design, and needs to understand the role that technology is playing in order to create that class or that lesson, in order to be able to, as we mentioned, empower the learning in the students, and to create those fluencies and those environments of collaboration, of communication, of creation, of innovation, of agency that we're looking for.
Oh, I love this word that you're using, agency. Of course, it all goes back to enabling the students, making them take responsibility for their learning as well. And it brings me to the idea that there must be something that you're doing really well, that you're preparing our youth for this rapidly changing world. You discussed a moment ago skill sets, success skills, the collaboration, the part about innovating creativity and using technology at the service of these competencies that are very unique to us, to humankind, and how we can make or accompany our students in reaching their full potential when we have this blended idea whereby technology is in full support of what we're doing, and not just a sticker on top or just an add-on. Instead, you use a lot the word immersion, or to be fully immersed in this ecosystem. So I do think there's a huge difference. Thank you for explaining that and what that means. When we talk about preparing our youth to better face this changing world, what would you say, or what would you not leave out, or what would be at the center then of a skill set that we are very much teaching deliberately and including in everything we do, more than disciplines and subjects? And what are those success skills that we should not lose sight of?
Well, I would say the life skills and all of the inner skills. And agency is a word I used. I think it is very, very important. Back, when the Greeks were around, the learning was responsibility of the learner. And that is something that you and I have shared, in other conversations, because for many reasons after the Industrial Revolution, that responsibility was taken away from the learner and was given either to the schools, to the teachers, to the parents. And all of a sudden, the kids were just repeating information and processing information that was given to them without the opportunity to explore, to observe, to create or develop critical thinking and creative thinking, to be able to solve problems, because all of the solutions were given to them. And really what we want is to, or we believe is very, very important, is to bring back that responsibility to the learner and to create agency so that they know they can learn regardless of the situation, and that any space gives you an opportunity to learn. And that, of course, if you are able to develop or become a great innovator, and if you are a problem solver, and you're a creative thinker, it doesn't matter what you're going to be working at. It doesn't matter what you're going to be studying, because probably for the kids that are in preschool right now, those careers or those jobs don't even exist, and we don't even know what they're going to look like. But what we do know is that if we give them all these life skills and all these competencies, they can really propel us forward as a very connected global society.
A very connected global society indeed. I love this idea of being very connected. And you talked a little bit about challenges, Mimi. You said that you're at the heart of what the children are interpreting in the learning experience. There lives a significant challenge. And I just want to go back to that idea, because I think it's brilliant that you have adopted the goals for sustainable development, designed, of course, for all humanity, designed by the people and for the people. And I think it's just brilliant that here we're giving them to the children for a better world. What more, how more can we impact and make it known to the child that they make a difference in this beautiful process where they're asked to arrive at solutions and conclusions for these very tangible and real life circumstances that surround us and concern us all. I just think that there's no better way of learning, is there? That you're really confronted with
yeah. If you think about it, Andrea, there's lots of existential risks that out there. And right now, the world that our students are facing and will be facing, just in the past few weeks, we saw fires and flooding and dryouts and the glaciers collapsing and temperatures rising as never before. Really, if we run out of water, if we end up our food supplies, if we don't have more energy resources, if we don't get along well, if wars keep on, taking place, what difference does it make if I get a straight A in a test, or if I score really high in order to go to college? I mean, that is important, yes, but it's not the transcendent piece. We really are preparing these kids to become the best generation that ever existed, because we need them. We need them to not only to be able to live a life that is full, that is productive, that is sustainable, that is happy, but that they become contributors and those members of society that we can be very proud of, because they need all of these competencies, inner competencies and awareness and empathy and caring and compassion and respect for themselves and love for themselves and for others, in order to be able to thrive, in order to be able to turn around everything that we're seeing in the world right now. And I think that's a very, very essential role of education, and it's our responsibility. So that is why we aligned every unit, every challenge that we give the children, the students, it's aligned to the Sustainable Development Goals, because those goals are not just for governments, are not just for ministries of health or whatever. They're for the world, for every human being. We all need to be aware that we all are part of it. We're part of the solution, but it starts with us. Change won't happen if we don't change and if we don't take action. And the kids need to learn that at a very early age.
Wow, that's super inspiring. I was getting ready to ask you, what direction do you think that education is going, and where should our priorities be? And you've just really essentially said that in a nutshell, and so beautifully. Mimi, your words are really inspiring. In fact, you remind me of the great teacher, the great master, Mahatma Gandhi. If you want to see change in the world, be the first to show it. And we definitely learn better, and our actions always speak louder than our words. So thank you for that reminder. It's beautiful. I'm going to start wrapping up this lovely session. We have about 4 extra little minutes. I want to leave you with something to ponder here as you have come so far. And I know that you look back oftentimes in your career, and I'm going to brag now and say, because I know your alma mater, the Olinka School, and I'm sure many of them are eagerly and enthusiastically following along our conversation today. The question would be, looking back on your career in education, looking back at yourself as a student and where you've come so far, what do you think you will leave as a legacy, and what is there left to do? Because of course, there's so much, but tell us how you see that, dear Mimi.
Well, that's a tough question. That's a tough one. But I would say my mission, and that's the reason I named my position here at Knotion as Chief Inspiration Officer, because I think we need to inspire learning audience, and we need to open eyes and open hearts. And we need to make them see that for many, many, many years, we had it all wrong and upside down, because we always thought that if we were able to get very high scores, to be super productive, to score amazingly in an SAT, go to a great college, then automatically we were going to be happy, because we were going to be super productive and high achievers. And then probably create a consciousness, be aware of others, because we had fulfilled the important part. And what I've been trying to say for all these years, it's that it's exactly the other way around. When you work with your inner side, when you develop your life skills, but your inner social-emotional skills, when you work with your those competencies that are with you as a person, not only as a professional, but as a person, and you are aware, empathetic, committed, connected, self-driven, responsible, then automatically high scoring, productivity, excellence takes place. And this is the most amazing evidence that we've been able to create here at Knotion after all these years, is that as a collateral benefit of creating consciousness and awareness, we have academic excellence, because it's easy that way. No, it's easy because we start with a core, we start with a heart, we start with the most important part of being a better person, a better human being. And that is why we truly believe that we can dream, because we are working on it, on the best generation humankind has ever known, because we need them for survival.
Wow. Mimi, this is just, electric with so many wonderful ideas. No wonder it's the perfect name for Chief Inspiration Officer. That's what you've been doing all afternoon with us here, but you're really ending on a high note. And I just want to second what you're saying. And thank you for reminding us that at the inner core of it all is our shared humanity. And you're doing just a phenomenal job to honor and bring justice to our species, to humankind, by bringing that back to the center. How to be human. I mean, human being human, and humankind. Let's be both. Humankind. You talk a lot about compassion. You talk a lot about empathy, and you talk about how it begins with me, how it begins with each of our students, with each of us. And just the fact that, we can bring it all back to matters of the heart. I know you guys are doing amazing things with Heart Math. I know you've got these great projects going, the trees around your school, and all that great data-driven evidence that you have that furthers the research and supports everything that has to do with the Knotion and action, knowledge and action, and learning for life that Knotion has constructed and keeps building and innovating on. I feel so proud and so honored to have hosted you today, dear Mimi, and to the Knotion community, the Varman School, and all the schools that are behind this amazing project. Thank you so much for your time this evening, and I'm sure that we will meet again.
Thank you, Andrea. Thank you very much. It was my pleasure.